transgender ideology on the youngest of children. You must use their preferred pronouns, not only as a teacher, but other students must.
What about doing that just as a person? What about just as a person, using people's preferred pronouns? See, like, I wouldn't say she, her to you, right? If I was like, oh, that lady, that woman, blah, 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 because you'd probably be offended by it. Now, the weird thing is you shouldn't be, because there's nothing wrong with being a woman, right? But still, I'm sure you want it to be referred to as he, him. So I'm going to respect that. I'll use he, him, even though you're bigot. Why not apply that universally? On June 12th, Fox News host Jesse Waters hosted Glendale, California teacher Ray Shelton, who was placed on leave following a school board meeting where he held up a swastika sign and then went on an anti-trans hate-filled tirade saying transgender ideology is anti-human. In this segment, Waters painted Shelton as an anti-trans culture war hero du jour, claiming he had been fired for saying 70% of the country believes and what 100% of science believes about trans people, both incorrect. The interview continued with Waters, Shelton, and his attorney, David Pivtarak, depicting Shelton as a victim of censorship and supporting the trans student as part of an authoritarian ideology.
Trans agenda is a religion now. Convert or be canceled. Those are your only options.
Oh
if you speak out, trans agenda is a religion now. Convert or be trans agenda is a religion now. Convert or be canceled. Those are your only options. If you speak out, get ready to be punched by Trantifa, or worse, lose your job.
What?
That's what happened to Ray Shelton. Ray's gay.
Is that a new thing being thrown around? Is that a new, like, it's a mix of trans and Antifa? Is that like, if that one's new to me, at least.
Two-time teacher of the year in Glendale, California.
By the way, Fox News, they will say how much they hate identity politics, and will they weaponize identity politics given the first chance? Just look at that, you know? He's like, he's gay, okay, so.
And he was fired for misconduct after criticizing his school's radical trans curriculum at an April school board meeting. Watch.
2 + 2 = 4. The world is not flat. Boys have penises, girls have vaginas. Gender is...
Old white gay men, the LGBT alliance, the gender criticals. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. You hate to see it. You really do hate to see it. I promise you, it's going to be so freeing once you realize this. You are more than your cocks. Yes, you are more than your prostates. You are more than a bunch of sentient prostates and cocks walking around. You're more than just a set of balls just marching along the floor. Cute little balls just pitter-pattering. No. We as men can be more than our genitals. Yes, we can rise above this. We have the power. I believe in us.
Binary and cannot be changed. Biology is not bigotry. Heterosexuality is not hate.
Okay, so biology is not bigotry, because I hear this one a lot. Okay, cool. Then why won't you follow basic biology at this point? Because it seems you're all still very confused. I understand from the perspective of, I used to think very differently about the world than I do now until I started realizing things. Like, I used to think that, like, well, based on very, very clear set of traits, if you have 2 gametes, a sperm and an egg, and based on the 23 chromosomal pairing that they associate, if it's going to be XX or XY, XX, it's going to turn into a woman eventually, XY, it's going to turn into a man, and that's how the whole system works. And then it turns out it's vastly more complex than that. It's actually a very delicate game of a variety of things, including hormones, including gene expression. And yes, the 23rd chromosome, of course, very, very important, but there's other things at play. And you can actually be born with conditions in which you would have the chromosomal pairing of, say, a man, XY, and then you happen to have another condition that suppresses the release of testosterone. And as it suppresses the release of testosterone, you're going to develop in many ways as what most people would associate as a biological female. So even if the archaeologists dug up the bones thousands of years from now, they would look at the bones and they would be like, well, this is a man, right? Technically, you are wrong. You are false. It may have the genetics of a man, but this is a woman. And this is both a woman in the way that, traditionally it looks like a woman, and also society would identify and associate, her with womanhood in every way, shape, or form. Intersex people exist. In fact, there's more intersex people than I previously thought possible. They are now known as differences of sexual development. But it's neat. It's like anything else. The more I learn about it, the more I research on it, the more I'm like, oh, wow, this is so much more vastly complicated than I originally thought. And that's cool. That's really cool. I love this shit. Let's learn more. Learning is fun, you know? Here, let's do it for all of us.
Transgender ideology is anti-gay. It is.
How lots of trans people are gay, dude. Lots of trans people gay as fuck. How is it anti-gay? I don't get it. How's it taking anything away from the gay? If anything, there's more gay people. Cool. Great. The project continues. This is the ultimate goal of the left, by the way. Until everyone is gay, we will not stop.
Anti-woman, and it is anti-human. It wants to take away women's sports, women's rights, women's achievements. It is misogyny writ large.
He also went on Dr. Phil just to talk common sense.
Talk common
Men
sense.
do not menstruate. Only women menstruate. If your chromosomes are XX and you're young, you menstruate. If you're XY, you don't.
But not always. That's the wild thing. Yeah, an estimated between 0.6 to 2% of the population could be what you classify as differences of sexual development. That would put people who are intersex technically at a higher ratio, a higher number, than there are people who are redheaded. Yeah, so that's a lot. And you wouldn't suddenly ignore the existence of redheads, would you? Would you suddenly be like, well, I mean, that's just redheaded ideology, that is. And now everyone's buying into the redheaded ideology, and they're all dyeing their hair red, and now they're all trying to become redheads, because apparently that's a big thing. These are just natural variations in the human experience, and it's all totally fine.
Correct, but what about trans men and non-binary? We're excluding a whole group of people.
They're women
that
dressed
menstruate.
as men. You are not a man. You can pretend to be a man, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine.
Sex and gender identity are they're completely different things.
They're not completely different.
They are
things.
completely different.
Completely different words.
Now, Ray was fired for saying what 70% of the country believes and what 100% of science believes. So he's now...
So, I can pull up the country one. We'll look at Pew Research. For science, incorrect. Every major medical association in the United States agrees upon both the existence of trans people, the existence of the potential for gender dysphoria, the existence of non-binary people as well as the benefits, the medical benefits that can come from gender-affirming care. That's, again, science. So science is on the other side of this one. Science, yeah, conclusively. In fact, science is so far past this point that science is starting to look at different aspects of gender and sexuality, while y'all are still figuring out the basics. You know, y'all are still at the fucking 3 states of matter. You're still being like, oof, wait until plasma comes along, baby. Right now, you're like, solids, liquids, gases. And then, yeah, it'll probably rock your world. And yeah, it's probably going to have to result in a big paradigm shift. And a whole bunch of people are going to be like, oh, wait, fuck, we were spreading ascientific nonsense for money. That's fucked.
So, the school. Ray Shelton is an attorney. David Pivtorek joins me now. All right, Ray, what did the school tell you when they let you go?
Well, Jesse, first, I didn't get, you're right, I didn't get thrown out of a restaurant, but I did get thrown out of my job. The school basically told me that I was engaging in hate speech and creating a hostile work environment for the kids.
So
that was there.
Speaking scientific facts is hate speech.
Yes. Yes.
Did they let you down easy? Was this a face-to-face thing? How did it go down?
Well, after that meeting, the school board meeting on the 18th, I went to school the next day and was met by an administrator and my principal, and they marched me out of my classroom, and my kids, my students, where are you going? And that sort of thing. And we went upstairs, sat me down. They read a letter saying that I was being placed on leave and not to set foot on GUSD property, and then marched me out to the edge of the property, telling me not to set foot back on school property. And then they would they would contact me later about what specific complaints they had against me.
I mean, some teachers that sleep with students have been treated better than that. Do you have...
Don't worry. You don't have to affirm that in one way or the other. It's an outrageous statement for sure. And the look of shock on your face at but don't worry, he's already moved past it. We're gonna get through this. You're almost done.
Good relationships with your students? Are your students upset that you've been treated like this?
They were heartbroken. They showed up later at school board meetings. Parents came to try and spoke to the board trying to get me back in the classroom.
Cowboy's his lawyer,
And
apparently.
the person who replaced me just wasn't up to par in terms of dealing with the students, and many of my parents were heartbroken, and the school just
Pressing X to
simply,
doubt, eh?
they're just not interested in good teachers.
You are so fucking boring. I don't think you're a good teacher. I would have a lot of troubles. I do struggle with the ADHD, but still, I mean, you're barely getting a sentence out right now. And this is your moment. This is the big moment for everyone to be like, oh, you're a hero. You're a hero to the right. Look at you talking about trans ideology and how men have penises.
They're interested in obeying. You must enforce this
I live in Glendale, and shocker, this guy's lying. He's lying. What? Oh, who knew?
Transgender ideology on the youngest of children. You must use their preferred pronouns, not only as a teacher, but other students must.
What about doing that just as a person? What about just as a person, using people's preferred pronouns? See, like, I wouldn't say she, her to you, right? If I was like, oh, that lady, that woman, blah, 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 because you'd probably be offended by it. Now, the weird thing is you shouldn't be, because there's nothing wrong with being a woman, right? But still, I'm sure you want it to be referred to as he, him. So I'm going to respect that. I'll use he, him, even though you're a fucking bigot. Why not apply that universally? It's what we've been doing our entire lives. It's actually more work for you to misgender people, to go out of your way to be like, well, I'm such a bigot that I'm not even going to use her proper pronouns. What is it, Caesar? No, she, her. Look at this made up nonsense.
Used the preferred pronouns or they will be expelled. So these laws affect not only teachers in free speech, but also the children themselves. If they see somebody who's clearly a woman, but who's pretending to a man, if they misgender them, they will get written up. They'll get disciplined.
All right, counsel, we're running out of time.
Like, I would hope that you get written up and disciplined if you're fucking trying to mistreat students in any way. I would hope. I would hope for the protection of the students. Like, if you walk around and you just start making fun of them. If there was a teacher who was just calling students fat or calling students, like, stupid and stuff like that, making kids cry, yeah, I would hope there would be some mechanism for someone to be like, yeah, this teacher is just an asshole. I don't understand why. He keeps calling girls boys and boys girls, and then, like, they're making them very upset, and they're all sad, and why do we have this teacher around? I'm like, yeah, so do we have a method for, I don't know, removing this shitty-ass teacher who doesn't, like, care about the welfare of kids?
Real quick, how are you going to litigate this? This seems like a slam dunk, but what do I know?
Well, Jesse, you know, I think this is pretty much a straightforward First Amendment case, as you can see. 50 years ago, the Supreme Court said that a public school teacher doesn't lose his right to free speech just because he's a public school teacher. And showing up as a private citizen to a school board meeting on his own time, talking about an issue that's not just of interest to the community, but to the entire country, that schools are transing kids behind their parents' backs.
No. See, here we have the fundamental problem. This is just like that Call of Duty motherfucker, the FaZe Clan guy. Guess what, everyone? Newsflash, Fox. Trans kids exist. They exist. Gay kids exist. Queer kids exist. Lesbians exist. Asexuals exist. Non-binary kids exist. And they should have an environment to go to school and feel safe like every other kid. That's it. That's what you're fighting against. That's what this whole fucking fight, all this war, all this anger, all this fucking protests, all these fights in the streets, bomb threats, death threats, blah, blah, blah. You've all been brainwashed. You've all been brainwashed to think that there's some weird conspiracy going on where they're trying to trans your children. Oh, look out. The trans lobby has indoctrinated the schools. You can't do that. If you could do that, trans and gay people wouldn't exist because all of society is cis heteronormative. It's all we get exposed to. There wouldn't be a fucking gay percentage of me at all that existed. It never would have made it. There was just too much good booba. There was just too much good, heterosexual content being fucking thrown my way my entire life. And yet somehow a little bit snuck through. I don't know how, but it would appear to me based on that like, yeah, ultimately you cannot trans the children. No one's trying to do that. They do deserve a safe space, though. A safe space to learn, safe space to be, just like everyone else, just like all kids. You know, I don't think that's controversial. That the kids should not feel scared at school.
And the fact that they retaliated against him really vindicates every claim that he's making about this trans ideology being an authoritative.
Oh my God, I hate how fucking right-wingers do that thing where they shit themselves in public and then talk about how everyone around them is disgusted by it. Oh, I just shit myself in the mall. Look how triggered all the libs are. Oh, all these libs are holding their noses. Triggered snowflakes much? And it's like, yeah, you're bringing swastikas to school board meetings. You're spreading hate speech. You're being vile and horrifying, and people didn't like it. That's the story that I'm seeing before me.
An ideology that suppresses speech instead of letting it be debated in open.
So people's existence is not a fertile ground for you to debate. Like, people just want to exist. They don't want to have their existence questioned in your debatosphere, in the marketplace of ideas, right? They'd rather just probably exist.
Right. David, Ray, keep us posted. We want to see how this develops. We really appreciate you guys.
Yay, bigots.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
Thank you kindly to our Lord and Saviors Peyton L. Just and Xander Corvus. Without you, we are nothing. And now, a shout out to our Knights of the Square Table. Amazing Flesh, Anna Loves Riley, Adrian McCarthy, DM Rivera, Doug Cady, Everything Important, Hegbard Celine, Izzy Solidarity, La Media Panza, Matthew Scarborough, Multimondi, Nettle, Omni, Peanut Butter Blonde, Political Papi, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Kubi, Cernicus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian Dimmel, Thomas, Trevbot EXE, Lucidry, Words Greenwood, Cheryl Alvarez, Tony Perkins, Thomas, O'Pecker, Travis McClinton, and Victoria Bell. Thank you so much. And a huge shout out to all the other people who make this entire show possible. Without you, it would not exist. If you can support us, please go to patreon.com/theserfs, and even $1 can help unlock all of the little goodies and help make this show entirely possible.